Hello, I'm Soraya Mia and you're watching It's About Youth. In today's dynamic world, the evolution of educational and cultural exchange is of paramount importance. In today's conversation, we will delve into what the Malaysian-American Commission of Educational Exchange, or MACEE, does to contribute to shape the global citizens as well as foster unity in a more diversifying world. So let me introduce you to the guests of today. We have Curtis Johnson, who is the Executive Director of MACEE, as well as Nurin Nadhirah Mohamad Fauzee, who is a UGRAD alumni of MACEE's program.
Hello.
First of all, thank you so much for joining us on It's About Youth. It's a pleasure to be speaking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Right, so let's start the conversation with Curtis. Perhaps how has the educational and cultural exchange between the United States and Malaysia evolved, in your tenure as the director of the program?
Sure. So I've been director of the program for approximately 3 years. So I started in the middle of COVID. Our first staff meeting was via Zoom, just like many other people. And we're this year celebrating our 60th anniversary. And so what we do is educational diplomacy between Malaysia and the United States. Our job is to send as many Malaysians to the United States for education, academic experience as possible, and bring in as many Americans into Malaysia as possible. Being that COVID has passed, what we're trying to do is not only solidify the programs in which we currently have, but seeing in different ways how we can expand and continue to grow the relationships, not only between Malaysians who are going, but also Malaysian universities and American universities, and see what kind of partnerships we can form there as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, I'm sure there's a lot more to explore in this sector, but Nurin is an alumni of one of MACEE's programs, so maybe you can share what is your experience, how has your experience been like? Maybe you have any examples of successful cross-cultural initiatives that enhance mutual understanding between the US and Malaysia.
So during the program, I was placed in a small town. It's called Huntingdon, and I was placed in a small college, which is different from my home university. It's a big university. I'm from IIUM, Gombak. So basically, the differences are a lot in terms of the place. But one thing I learned and experienced there is because it doesn't feel foreign, because there's a lot of international students, even though it's a small town. So basically, everyone comes from everywhere, and that's where we learn, we understand, we inculcate mutual respect between each other by always staying curious, because most of the days that I had when I was in the States, it's like we have daily interactions, we ask questions, we understand the cultures, the different cultures. So basically, when that happens, we do realize that, we're all coming from different backgrounds, but then we still do have common grounds as a global citizen.
Yeah. So I guess this is definitely one of what MACEE, aims to achieve, and there you have it. One goal checked, right? Yeah. So how does MACEE actually envision its role in shaping global citizens? To add on what Nurin just shared.
No, that's a great point and a great question. One of the things that we do is we look for Malaysians and or Americans in 3 different areas. The first area we focus in on is, would this be a transformational experience for the individual? So we're looking for the individual who may have never had a chance to go overseas or do another program, something wherever, because we know that's going to be impactful for the individual. One of the things we say is anybody who has been overseas, the day you come back and you step back on your home soil, you know that you've been changed, no matter where you've gone, whether it be Singapore, Thailand, Australia, China, Europe, United States, it doesn't matter. You are a different person when you come back, and that leads very much into global citizenship. The second thing that we're looking for as far as the individual, what tangible benefit they bring to Malaysia and they bring to ASEAN. So whether it be them as an individual and what kind of superstar they are, or whether it be the work that they're doing that has real impact to the everyday lives of Malaysians and people in ASEAN, who are those individuals and how can we find those programs and those applicants? And third, I would say, is really, can this person be a diplomat and an ambassador? And not just an ambassador for their home university and their family, but also ambassador for their country, an ambassador for our programs. One of the things we like to always say is, you know, you don't go to the United States to learn how to make fire. Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia has its own fire. What I'm looking for are people who have that fire and who know their business, and they go over there and iron sharpens iron, and everybody's better for it. And so we do that through all of the programs that we offer. There's 9 that send Malaysians to the United States, and there's 3 that bring Americans in. And so the more we focus in on individuals like that, I think the better off we all are.
Yeah, we'll get into more of the success stories after this. But I'd like to ask Nurin, what do you think the importance of educational diplomacy is? You know, I mean, we understand, you know, diplomacy between nation to nation is very important, but what, you know, educational diplomacy?
I think in that perspective, I would say in terms of exchanging ideas, because coming back from the States, of course, I feel different in a way that in terms of changing ideas and perspective, because when I go there, I kind of get out from my bubble. So basically the ideas are different. When people are coming from different places, you have like different kind of ideas because you have different perspective. So be it in class or be it in like out of class situations, I feel like when you have that exchange of ideas, it somehow drives the importance of having this particular, how do I say, like when you have that exchange of idea, you come back to your home country and you feel like, oh, this is the thing that I want to apply when you are back in your home country. That's what I feel like that is really important, because once you have that idea, that exchange of idea, when you want to apply in your home country, that could help in terms of improving the society, or like at least within your community in terms of changing of mindset or like habits, yeah, being open to like most of the things.
Yeah, I guess there must also be challenges, you know, when it comes to sort of introducing new ideas as well. But maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. So when you talk about, you know, different cultures, different governments, different structures of things, you know, there is definitely, when we look on the global scale, there's rising divisions going on. You know, how does MACEE actually strive to break down the barriers?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I'll start with even the way our organization is set up. So the Fulbright program globally is in 160 countries. In 49 of these countries, they have commissions, much like the Malaysian-American Commission on Educational Exchange, MACEE, here. The beauty of the organization is it's structured like no other organization in the country of Malaysia.
Why is that?
5 Malaysian government officials sit on our board and 5 American government officials sit on our board. We are legitimately co-owned by both governments. So the direction in which we go has to be agreed on by 2 governments. Second, I would also say that when you go to the United States on these programs, you're not going to a US program. You're going to a global program. So again, there's 160 countries that are participating in these same programs. So our Malaysians that go to the United States have been opened up to a global community. When we look at what that looks like, the United States has more international students, more international professors than any other country in the world. And so when you return, you're not just connecting with your American colleagues, you're connecting with your colleagues in Georgia, with your colleagues in Ecuador. You're going to Taiwan to be able to meet all of these friends. When you go to Europe, you have the opportunity to reconnect with people. Is that?
Yeah, I do agree, because when I was in the States, I get to make a lot of friends, like a lot of connections. So right now, like the networking opportunity is one of the things that I feel like I really appreciate. Now it feels like, yeah, being a global citizen does not mean you just be in a place, but then you have like networkings all across the country. So you have that understanding, you have that mutual respect. So that also helps in becoming like a global citizen, understanding the differences in one community.
Mm-hmm. I think that's very interesting, especially when we look into these exchange programs. You have to have a very open mind, and you can benefit a lot. But when you come back to Malaysia, and then when you deal with your peers, how do you actually encourage that open mind along with your peers when you work, or even with university?
Oh, that's actually a good question. I think it's quite tough coming back to Malaysia, because I feel like I've changed, but then like my peers are there to observe the changes that I've had. But then like when talking to them, I do have like barriers in terms of like understanding. So that was quite hard. But I think the way I deal with it is like by sharing my experiences and where do I come from when it comes to like explaining the ideas of it, so they would understand better and like reflect. So I think one good thing that I have with my friends is we always like do self-reflection, like why things are different, so that where understanding comes in when it comes to like sharing.
If I may, real quick, that's part of the job of a commission as well. It's not just to manage our grantees as they go, but there's the concept of reverse culture shock, and it happens with Americans going back to the United States. It happens with all of us. And so we have the benefit of 60 years worth of alumni as well. And so every person who goes on one of these grants, there's somebody who's gone before them, who's probably going through the exact same things and having the exact same questions and issues. So even if you're still amongst your hometown and your friend group, yes, you have changed. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But also being able to lend other voices to people who have gone through it before is something that we're working on to continue to grow our community of alumni, to ensure that you're not alone and you don't feel like you've just been dropped back home and the program's over and we're just done. So it's definitely about customer experience through the life cycle of our programs.
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting point when you talk about reverse culture shock. People always talk about culture shock, but then there's reverse culture shock. Yeah, but you also mentioned 60 years of the programs. Throughout the 60 years, maybe you could share some of the success stories. Like, what are the most significant success stories that you've had?
Yeah, so we celebrated our 60th anniversary on October 7th in Kuala Lumpur at the JW Marriott, and we had Tan Shris, we had YBs, we had Datos, Datuks, and all of the like who have been through the various aspects of the program. And so I think there's no one that stands out. There's one of our grantees, she got into a program where she was going to get a graduate degree, and she sold her house in Miri to help fund the rest of the program. She's now leading the COVID-19 initiative in Sarawak for the local government there. And so that's one. YB Ong Kian Ming, he is a former Fulbrighter as well. Mazlan Othman, Malaysia's first astrophysicist, I believe. She's a Fulbrighter. Dato Ramli Ibrahim, former Fulbrighter. So we got folks. We're doing some really cool things.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it boils down to, when these public diplomacy programs, how do you measure impact, right? Because what we're doing is we're putting an investment and we're making a bet, really, more than anything else, that this person's going to be, a superstar. And in doing so, one of the things we say is we don't create diamonds in any of our programs. We find them, and this program kind of just shines them up and gets them on their way. We're kind of like, we're Gandalf, we're Morpheus, we're the guide to their success. And so when you're able to see that on a day-to-day basis, it's such a rewarding experience. And then just to see people 5, 10, 15 years, and you're just like, wow, we played just a little small part in who they were going to be. It's really just a fun thing to be able to do.
I'm sure it is. That's very inspirational, actually. There's a future for me here in Fulbright.
There's a future
Who
for
knows?
everybody.
Yeah, for everybody.
So, Nurin, you've been in the UGRAD program for about 5 to 6 months, as you mentioned just now. So, what are the most fascinating differences between the cultural exchange between Americans, or where exactly you were posted, as well as Malaysians?
I think just now, like I mentioned, the differences in terms of like the vicinity and also the area that I'm in, because I was placed in not a town, but I think in
Outskirts.
Yeah, outskirts, a remote area where 7,000 people live there, and in my campus, it's only 12,000 students in total. So basically, we live in a very close community where we connected with like a lot more close relationship with like professors and also the students, even the staff at the dining hall. So
Nurin, where are you from in Malaysia? Are you from outskirts or?
I'm from Kuala Lumpur.
Oh, you're from KL.
Yeah.
So you might not have much of experience in the kampung, or do you balik kampung for Raya?
No, not really. Yeah. So I even spent my Raya here in Kuala Lumpur.
Okay, born and raised in KL then.
So it was, it was different, but I think in terms of communication, I don't really have difficulties, but it's just that I feel like the community there is curious when I went there. So that's where the cross-cultural exchange comes, when they're curious and I'm curious. So when, let's say, for example, I went to the Walmart. So basically, I'm different because I can say in that community, I was the only one who wear hijab. So it's different, and they feel like, oh, she comes from a different place. But that doesn't come from like a hatred place or what, but it's just come from a curiosity. So they talk to me, they engage with me, like they're asking where I'm from because they're just curious, because they don't know. So that's one thing that I feel so grateful about, because like at least what I know is like, what media shows is very different from what I have experienced in the States.
Yeah. So, Curtis,
Yes.
what do you think is the main opportunity and challenges in deepening, the educational and cultural ties between the U.S. and Malaysia?
So I think there's a lot of opportunity on the university to university level. One of the things that we're doing is Malaysia's university system is very much interested in raising their global world rankings, and one of the ways to do that is more engagement with professors, particularly from the United States, coming over and for short-term or longer-term assignments, having additional partnerships, university to university, and I think that's a place that MACEE sees a world of opportunity as far as continuing to grow. In this year, 2023, we've signed 11 MOUs with public and private universities across the country, and we are not done at all. We want to keep going and keep building those relationships and that consortium so that we can go to U.S. universities and say, hey, these are Malaysian universities that are interested in what you have to offer. Let's see what kind of deals we can make to, again, further build the infrastructure between the two countries. In addition to that, as far as the challenges, I think it's the challenges of, people's expectations of the United States or people's media representation of the United States. As Nurin said, on the ground, the inquiry comes from a place of curiosity. Just like, if I'm in the kampung in Malaysia, there's a good chance people are going to ask me some questions. Mostly
out of curiosity.
because I'm tall. So being that that's the case, that's why they'll start asking me questions. But what I do with that is that's an opportunity for me to be a diplomat at all times. right? I grew up in Chicago, and Michael Jordan was in Chicago, and one of his mantras was, every time I lace up my shoes, I know there's somebody who has never seen me play. So for example, if you see somebody that looks like me on television and have never engaged with me, that is the one chance and opportunity to do so. And so being that that's the case, it's incumbent on, I'm responsible to make it a wonderful experience for the individual as well, because that legitimately will change the trajectory of their understanding. Every Malaysian we send does the exact same thing on the program. Every American that comes in does the exact same thing. Yes, it's based in this academic educational piece, but the real learning happens outside the classroom.
Yeah.
It happens in the Walmart.
Yeah.
It happens at the supermarket. It happens, you know, when going to a sporting event or going to go see another city. And all of these inflection points are contagious. And that's where things really move and or change. And again, we're really just lucky to be in this line of work.
I wanted to ask about, on the topic of education, since you went to IIUM, and then you also went to the university in the United States. So what are the sort of, the takeaways that you can give? I'm sure there's a lot of room for Malaysia to improve in terms of education. Maybe what are your thoughts about the difference?
I think the difference, this is like one of the significant difference that I found, because I took up a class in the States where it's called Minority Experience. So basically we actually learn, because we were compulsory to take up one of the American ethnicity courses. So basically I took that, and then I learned about all the races, all the people in America. So which is actually good. I've never known that there's so many communities in the States. Like I thought there's only Black American or like African American, but they are indigenous people. So basically like they have a lot. Like it's various, like Asians are also Asians American. So which is actually good. And the class itself, it's actually a discussion-based setting, which I find it very interesting, because somehow you kind of do your homework before the class starts. So in the class, you kind of give your insights and your opinions about it. So I think that's one of the takeaways that I feel like it's very important to be implemented, especially in the education system in Malaysia, because I feel like in the traditional setting in Malaysian education system, where it's always like the lecturer delivers and the students are quite timid, so they just listen, just take whatever they can get from the lecturer, but it's never like an exchange of learning, because in the States we also give opinions and then the professors also learn from us. So which is great. Sometimes like there are some takeaways that the professors couldn't get from their study. So basically it's always like exchange of ideas, opinions. So then the mutual respect comes in, and also understanding comes in. So I think if that can be implemented in educational setting in Malaysia, I think the society, the community would be so much better, especially I think because there are similar traits in terms of the demographics in Malaysia, because we are racially diverse, and same goes to America. They are racially diverse. So that means I would say it's we go for salad bowl theory, not like a melting pot theory.
Right. Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I don't.
Yeah. So you wanna?
Okay, you can go ahead. Because
all right. Yeah. So the first thing, to your point about how professors are in the United States, the philosophy of university in the United States is a professor is a student that's further along. Right? So they are not the master of the industry or the subject. They're just further along in their studies, which is why there is a more collaborative effort as far as there's things that my students can teach me that I did not know. But in addition to that, it really is the salad bowl. If you notice in the salad bowl versus a melting pot, everything kind of coalesces in a liquid form and congeals into one thing. Whereas in a salad bowl, your croutons always stay your croutons. Your lettuce always stays your lettuce. Everything stays who they are. But you can still put them all in your mouth and they taste great, right? So it is the ability to come to your space with your individuality and be just as important and powerful by being who you are versus having to melt into something else.
Well, I learned something new today, and I actually would like to highlight on the salad bowl theory, because I feel like life is really a never-ending school, I believe. So even if you're a professor or anywhere up there, you still want to learn. But unfortunately, that is all the time we have. I wish we could continue the conversation. But that's all for me. My name is Soraya Mia. Thank you both so much for joining us once again. And that is all. We'll see you again soon.